The 2007 college football season saw it all. Chaos, mayhem, expect the unexpected. Anything was possible. It was the greatest season ever played. A ranked team lost to a lower ranked or unranked opponent 62 times during the regular season. Top 10 teams lost 29 times. Number 1 team lost 4 times. The year saw number 2 fall 7 times during the final 9 weeks of the season. Number 1 and number 2 ranked teams had not lost in the same week of the season since 1996. In 2007 alone, number 1 and number 2 fell during the same weekend 3 times.
They're going to kick the field goal. It'll be Jason Gingell out of the hold of Mesco. Good snap, good hold, and the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Week 1 only saw one upset, but it was a big one. FCS school Appalachian State defeated number 5 Michigan 34-32. Michigan dropped from number 5 in the polls and a championship contender to unranked after this game, and they were the first team to ever do this. Michigan paid $400,000 to Appalachian State to play the game. This win was so large that the Appalachian State rule was created to allow AP voters to rank FCS schools. Weeks 2 through 4 were relatively tame for the 2007 college football season, with 11 upsets spanning across a 3-week span, which is relatively average. Most notably, in Week 2, number 11 Georgia lost to South Carolina, and number 17 Auburn lost to South Florida, which is a team that will be mentioned later on about that upset. In Week 3, number 9 Louisville lost to Kentucky, and number 11 UCLA lost to Utah. And in Week 4, number 10 Penn State lost to Michigan. Week 5 is where all the fun begins. 8 different upsets happened during this 1 week, 7 to an unranked opponent, 3 of the top 5 teams lost, and half of the top 10 lost. That's roughly 1/3 of the best programs in the country losing on the same day. Most notably, number 5 West Virginia lost to number 18 South Florida, who was ranked for the first time in their program's history. South Florida's football program started in 1997 and had just recently moved to the FBS in 2000. They didn't even have their own stadium to play in, but after this win, they'd moved to number 6. Also losing this week was number 3 Oklahoma to Colorado, number 4 Florida to Auburn, number 7 Texas to Kansas State, number 10 Rutgers to Maryland, and number 13 Clemson to Georgia Tech. All of those teams losing to unranked opponents. Week 6 couldn't quite live up to the hype of Week 5, but still saw 5 upsets. Most notably, number 2 USC losing to unranked Stanford. Stanford was 1-3 heading into this game and had finished 1-11 the previous year and was playing with their backup quarterback who had only thrown 3 passes in his entire career. Also losing this week was number 5 Wisconsin to unranked Illinois and number 12 Georgia losing to unranked Tennessee. Week 7 saw 6 upsets. Number 1 LSU would fall to number 17 Kentucky, who had not been ranked since 1984. This loss would set up number 2 ranked University of California to be ranked number 1 for the first time since 1931. All California had to do was go and beat unranked Oregon State. Cal, who was ranked number 2, their highest ranking since 1951, would lose this game, and then this would dismantle their entire season as they would go on to finish 6-6. Week 8 continued the theme of more than 5 upsets happening in a week, with 6 upsets. Remember South Florida? We talked about them earlier. They are now ranked number 2 and would travel to Rutgers and have a relatively easy schedule after this and a good look at the national championship as long as they can win this game. They would go on to lose this game, though, however, and would also go on to lose their next 2 games, being ranked number 10, losing to number 23 Connecticut, and being ranked number 18 and losing to unranked Cincinnati. Also losing in Week 8 with number 6 South Carolina losing to unranked Vanderbilt, and number 12 California losing to UCLA. Week 9 was a tame week as it saw 5 upsets, but none of them really major, as a lot of ranked teams lost to other ranked teams. The 2 major upsets this week were number 14 Kentucky falling to unranked Mississippi State, and number 15 Virginia losing to unranked North Carolina State. Week 10 only had one major upset. It was number 2 Boston College falling to unranked Florida State. This was Boston College's highest rank since 1984 and their first time being ranked in the top 2 since the 1942 season, and this loss would continue the trend of the number 2 team losing. In Week 11, things started to pick up again, with 5 upsets happening. Number 12 Michigan lost to unranked Wisconsin, number 13 Connecticut lost to unranked Cincinnati, and number 8 Boston College lost to unranked Maryland. But most notably, unranked Illinois went on the road and defeated number 1 Ohio State. This was Illinois' first win versus the number 1 ranked team since 1956. Week 12 would only see 3 upsets, but 2 of them being very large as they were in the top 5. Number 2 Oregon would lose to unranked Arizona, and number 4 Oklahoma would lose to unranked Texas Tech. With the national championship approaching, Week 13 would be a monumental week as there were 5 upsets that would shake up the picture. Number 1 LSU would lose to unranked Arkansas. Number 13 Texas would lose to unranked Texas A&M. And number 9 Oregon would lose to unranked UCLA, setting the stage for a big rivalry game between number 2 Kansas and number 4 Missouri, winner taking the number 1 ranked spot, and a spot in the Big 12 championship would most likely make an appearance in the national championship game. Just to tell you how weird this game was, this was Missouri's highest rank since 1960, and this is the highest that Kansas had ever been ranked. But Missouri would go on to win this game and claim number 1 with 1 week left. Week 14, Championship Week and Rivalry Week. This week would set up the stage for the national championship, with 3 upsets occurring. Number 17 Oregon would lose to unranked Oregon State, and number 1 Missouri would lose to number 9 Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship, and the Missouri was playing for their first national championship appearance. This set the stage for number 2 West Virginia to secure their berth in their first ever national championship with a win over Pittsburgh in the backyard brawl. Pittsburgh would go in and stun West Virginia, and on the way home, Pitt's QB was rumored to sing Country Roads on the bus ride back. After all this chaos, 2 teams arose to the challenge and were picked to be in the national championship game, LSU and Ohio State. This was a relatively normal championship game, as Ohio State was making a reappearance and LSU was one team favored to be in the championship. LSU would defeat Ohio State, and this would make it look like everything was back to normal despite all the chaos that we saw this season. One team that was not discussed during this video was the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. They had been entered the polls early in the season ranked 23rd, their highest ranking ever, and would eventually climb all the way up to number 10 and earn a spot in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. However, they would get smoked in this bowl game.
So this will be the last snap. Victory formation for Mizzou. The border belongs to the Tigers. Hello, Oklahoma. And for Mark Mangino and the Jayhawks, they'll now go back to Lawrence and await their destination. They'll be headed to a good bowl, remember.